Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today, we're on part 13 of 30, where I'm speaking about my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Culture, the 5 components for building high-performance team. So we got 2 more chapters, 2 more episodes to talk about the leadership development component of the transformation equation, and we'll have that component wrapped up. So we got 2 more to go. So this will be part 13 and 14, and we'll kind of wrap up the leadership development component. Today I'm talking to you about chapter 13. And again, I'm not reading the book to you. I'm not talking about everything that's in the chapter. I'm talking about things relative to the chapter. I may pull some quotes out of it or some thoughts, and then just share whatever comes to my mind at the moment. My podcast, I don't prepare them in advance. I just come on here and talk to you guys, whatever comes out. Maybe whatever I'm thinking about lately, whatever I'm thinking about at the moment relative to this. And it still relates to the book. And I talk about, most of the time, a lot more than content that is in the book. Chapter 13 is develop high-impact leaders. So you'll notice I talked to you first about chapter 11 was develop high-impact individuals. Chapter 12 was about developing high-impact team players. This chapter 13, is about developing high-impact leaders. And again, I have a resource for you, an entire book that helps you with this. It's my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision, Unleash Your Team's Potential. I use supervision in the title because that's what people talk about in the blue-collar workforce. I really don't like that word, supervision, but it's a common word. I put it on the title because I wanted people to know it was for the boss. But it's for any boss, really. And I don't even like the word boss. But again, that's a blue-collar term. It's pretty common. Everybody calls the person they report to the boss. So I use terms that people can relate to. But this book is really for anyone at any level in a formal position of authority. Leaders who have people reporting to them. But again, I wrote it for the frontline, entry-level leader, formal authority leader. It could be a team leader, supervisor, manager. They got all different kind of titles, foreman, superintendent, whatever this frontline person's called. That's who I wrote it for, the first level of formal authority leadership. That's the intended audience. Again, I have leaders at all levels in all size organizations who love that book when they read it, because it's full of principles that applies to everyone. And I'll tell you this, if I'm leading an organization, if I own the organization, I'm teaching everyone in the company what's in this book. They're going through a book study on this book too, because the principles in this book are all related to how to lead other people without a position of authority. It's really about moving beyond traditional management and supervision. It's about leading with authentic influence, which must be earned regardless of your position or title, instead of leading with artificial influence. It's one of the chapters in that book. I talk about the difference. Artificial influence is whatever influence comes with the title, the position, your rank. Those always come with a certain degree of influence, but it's artificial. People follow you because they have to. This whole book is how to get people to follow you because they want to. If you're a formal authority leader, that's huge. But it applies if you're not a formal authority leader. If you're just a team member, if you're a frontline entry-level team member, you're trying to influence other people at every level. And I tell you this, if you learn to influence people without a position, it won't be long before you're offered one. That's why it's key for people who are doing what's in this book. You've got to develop your high-impact formal authority leaders. You got to help them become high-impact leaders if they're not. I should have said you have to develop your formal authority leaders. They may not be high-impact leaders yet. And again, the reason You want to also include everybody at every level, is because that's, again, how you fill the pipeline. You start teaching the frontline entry-level people who do not have anybody reporting to them these principles in my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision. And you're going to see the cream rise to the top. You're going to tell who adopts these principles and starts growing their influence, because they don't need a position or title. What I'm teaching to become a high-impact leader, I'm teaching the formal authority leader in that book, set your position and title aside and lead with character. So that's a resource that relates to this chapter. But in the chapter, I'm talking about the need to develop high-impact leaders. The subtitle of this chapter is "The level of engagement below is determined by the level of engagement above." See, it takes a high-impact leader to buy into that statement. A low-impact leader, they want to blame the people. A high-impact leader knows, I'm responsible for the people. I'm responsible for their performance. I'm responsible for their morale. I'm responsible for their engagement. I'm responsible for their desire to make improvements. I'm responsible. That's what a high-impact leader does and says. What they do is take responsibility. What they say is, I'm responsible. I want to share a quote with you from Deanne Turner. She retired after 33 years from Chick-fil-A as the Vice President of Talent, which is HR in a lot of companies. They call it Vice President of Talent. A little bit different. This is not human resource management. It's Vice President of Talent, the people. She says, often organizations focus only on the value of developing new leaders and neglect the development of seasoned leaders. A few will take their thinking to the next level and continue to invest in seasoned leaders. Organizations that invest in both new leadership and seasoned leaders will clearly create the most competitive workforce. And I'm going to tell you something far worse than that. A lot of organizations don't develop any of their leaders. You may be saying, yep, we don't do it. A lot of blue-collar organizations, I'm telling you, I've been all in them, inside them, worked in them, consulted for them, teach leadership development stuff now. And I see it all the time. They just promote somebody who does a good job. There is no leadership development. That'd be like, I make you you do good at taking a math test, and I make you the math teacher. You ain't never been taught how to teach math. You may not know all about math. You just pass that test. Doesn't even make sense. But people get promoted, and they're brave, courageous people, actually, these people. They hold their hand up. They accept the promotion. Some of them don't want the promotion. They get promoted anyway. That's their choice. You take the leadership job or you lose your job is kind of the way it's put. That don't even make sense, but that's what people do in the blue-collar world. That's what low-impact leaders do. They force somebody to take a leadership position, and then they don't give them any leadership development. Make a lot of sense to teach them leadership development before you promote them to be a leader. But at least at a minimum, if you promote them to be a leader, at least give them some leadership development training then. But that's not the way it works in most organizations. That's why I'm so passionate, fired up about what I'm talking to you about. This is a roadmap. Blue Collar Leadership and Culture. This book is a roadmap for people who listen to this. And if you're a frontline person listening to this, learn this stuff that's in these books and go work your way up and learn to lead, and you create the culture in one of these organizations. You grow yourself right from where you are to where you want to be. Your leaders may not do this. You go outgrow your leaders. Go find you a better leader. Fire your leaders. Go somewhere else. That's what I want. I don't care if you're the top CEO. You want to take this content, this material, you want to go create a high-performance team, please do it. But if you somewhere else in the chain, the org chart, all the way down to the front lines, I want you to do it. You got to do the same thing. You got to grow and develop yourself. You got to become a high-impact team player. While you're in your organization that's not growing and developing people, you're going to become a shining star. Let me make that clear. You learn the stuff that's in this book, that's in the other books that I refer to in this book. You get this kit of resources in your mind. You start learning, how do I apply this exactly where I'm at? You do that in an organization that doesn't care about leadership development, you're gonna launch like a rocket. While you're there or somewhere else, you decide. See, you're gonna have options. And somebody out there who values this stuff is looking for you. But if you haven't developed yourself well, they don't want you. See, it's kind of funny. A lot of times people who work in an organization that doesn't develop and grow their people, they see another organization that does grow and develop their people, and they want to work there, but they can't get hired. Why? Because they're not growing and developing themselves. Those good companies, the kind that's already, like I'm talking to you about, like Chick-fil-A, they want somebody with high character when they show up at the door, and they got a ton of people they're attracting. They're attracting a lot of top talent, so they get to be picky about who they choose. Not just Chick-fil-A, any organization that has a well-developed culture, a high-performance team, people with high degree of character, high degree of competency, those people are attracting great people. So if you got competency but you haven't studied leadership development and learned to implement it and apply it in your life personally and professionally, you're never going to get those jobs at the good companies. And if you do, it ain't going to last. Because the only way you're going to get it is if you fool them. And you ain't going to fool them for long after you get in the door. So anybody at any level can learn this stuff and launch their career. They can launch their organization today if they're a top leader, or they can prepare to do it in the future. High impact team players, we talked about that last episode, and high impact individuals. See, there's something about those people. They require high impact leaders. A high impact individual or a high impact player, if they don't have a high impact leader, they're going to be leaving because they're going to have options. So as you grow and develop your individuals and you grow and develop high impact team players, now you got to grow and develop leaders. And if everybody's on board, if you take everybody through this culture book, through a book study, so they understand, they're hearing all this stuff, they see what's coming. They don't have to make up a story and think why we're doing all this. You take them through a book study on this culture book, they're going to know just as much as the top leader. So they're going to be able to help. Those hungry people are going to be able to help and raise their hand and let you know I'm on board because they understand what's coming. They're going to be more patient. They know we're going to teach everybody to be high impact individuals. Then we're going to teach everybody to be high impact players. Then we're going to teach everybody to be high impact leaders. And see, those hungry people, because they've already went through this book, they're going to be getting a head start. So they're going to be at the front of the line when you get there because they're probably going to already have implemented it, applied things at a higher level because they understand the big picture. So if you'll go slow on the front end, you'll go fast on the back end. And what I mean is, so many people who read Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, they want to teach that book first because that's got some good stuff in it. It's how to become a high-impact individual. And see, that's what a lot of leaders want because they don't have it. They want their team members to get better. But they're going fast to go slow because they don't know, the team members don't know the big picture. A truly high-impact leader is going to teach this book right here that we're going over. They're going to buy everybody a copy. They're going to lead book studies. Everybody's going to know everything the top leader is trying to do. And that's going to accelerate the mission long term, as long as the leader actually does it. Because the high-impact people in the organization, they're going to be so attracted to what we're about to do in this company. They're going to be fired up for what's going to happen 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. And if the top leader don't fail those people, doesn't let them down, they're going to go kill it. So that's why people think, oh, he's just trying to sell books. That's why he wants. No, I'm trying to help a leader generate buy-in by creating a unifying purpose, which we're going to talk about in future components. But this whole book is written in a very specific way. Each chapter builds on the previous chapter. And when you finish this book, I highly recommend you go back and start over and read it again, because once you go through the book, now you're going to understand where the book's going. So when you go back to the front, it's going to have a lot more meaning when you understand where we're heading. All right? So as you develop individuals and help them become high-impact team players, you're actually beginning to fill your leadership pipeline. I talked about that last episode. You're going to be doing something special. You're going to have a team like you can't dream of at the moment. And your competition, they don't stand a chance if you'll just go do it. You shouldn't expect someone to be able to lead others well until they've proven they can lead themselves well. I don't mean they can do a good job. People get promoted all the time because they can do a good job. I mean lead themselves well. I'm talking about character. Remember, this entire book is about character. Leading myself well means I work effectively with other people. All other people. That means my coworkers, my boss's boss, my coworkers' bosses, the engineering department, the quality department, the maintenance department, the safety department, everybody. Salespeople if they come in, customers if they come in, everybody. If I can't lead myself well, I don't deserve to lead others at all. Those who are the best at leading themselves well will also be best at modeling and teaching others to do the same. That's why it's so important. Every leader, starting at the top all the way down, formal authority leaders, they got to be modeling, they got to be teaching. And you're always teaching what you're modeling, regardless of what you're teaching. Don't miss that. There's some leaders, their companies will do this stuff and they'll do the book study. You know, they'll fake it. They do it because they have to. And everybody knows they're doing it because they have to, so it's not effective. But they do it because they have to. They're teaching one thing and they're modeling another thing. Because as they go through this content, especially when you get into the books I've been referencing, blue collar leadership and teamwork, blue collar leadership and supervision, you get leaders leading teams through those book studies, and the leader's not modeling that. Everybody knows it. It's no secret. Everybody knows it. They know if each other's living it. Everybody knows it. The leader knows if a team member is leading it. You can't keep your behavior a secret in public. If you work with people, people know who you are. But what you're teaching is not what you're teaching. What you're modeling is what you're teaching. Now, a high-impact person will take this stuff. They'll go learn it on their own, and they'll model it, and they may move on out of the organization if the leaders are not modeling it. That's not what you want. That's why it's so critical that the leaders understand how to lead themselves well, how to be a high-impact team player themselves, and then also how to lead others well. High-impact individuals on the front line who've been developed and are leading themselves well expect and deserve to be led well. See, that's what happens. This thing just builds on itself. That's why you need to know what's coming. When you develop high-impact individuals, those people expect and deserve to be led well. When they lead themselves well, they don't want to work for Barney Fife. They want to work for Andy Griffith. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch that old black and white TV show called The Andy Griffith Show. You can probably pull up a clip on YouTube and watch 5 minutes. You'll understand what I'm talking about. If you're a young person, you ain't ever seen that show, you'll understand in a minute. High-impact individuals don't want to work for Barney. They want to work for Andy. And I'm going to tell you, you probably know it, already know it. The blue-collar industries are full of Barneys. And the reason is nobody teaches leadership hardly. There's no pipeline of high-impact leaders. They're just people who do a good job, who get promoted. And now they become responsible for trying to motivate and inspire others to do a good job. But you got to understand this. Doing a good job yourself versus motivate and inspire others to do a good job, that's two completely different skill sets. It's totally higher degree level of character required to motivate and inspire others to do a good job. You probably already know this, even if you don't really know it. But I've been reading hundreds and hundreds of leadership books since 2008. I've read it 100 times, but I don't need to read it. I already know it, just like you already know it. The number one reason people quit a job is the relationship with their boss. Absolutely, there's other reasons. But the number one reason, and it's been the number one reason in tons and tons of surveys, is a relationship with their boss. See, the way leaders lead people, that makes them responsible for turnover and retention. Remember, I'm sure I've shared this with you, not maybe in recent episodes, but everybody understands the formal authority leader can fire the team members, the workers. Anyone who reports to them, the leader can fire them. Everybody knows that. But a lot of people don't even think about those people can also fire the leader. It's called quit. If I don't like my boss, I quit and go somewhere else. I just fired the boss. That boss got fired. I can fire the boss just like the boss can fire me. High impact individuals, high impact team players, and high impact leaders, they all know they can fire the boss. They all have options. They'll do it in a minute if they need to do it. Low impact individuals, low impact team players, low impact leaders, they don't have many options. They have to put up with the bad boss. That's a bad working environment. And there's a lot of those out there. But the number one reason people quit is a relationship with their boss. I want to say this. Workers work for a boss because they feel they have to. Followers work with a leader because they want to. That's a completely different relationship. I work for the boss because I have to. I follow a leader and work with a leader because I want to. And I've seen research, and I can validate it from my own experience. Again, I quote some research statistics and stuff I've read over the years, but I don't need any of those statistics. I just quote them so people can think about it, I guess. I don't need them. I validated it. Everything I teach you, I validated it. I don't have to read it in a book. I don't have to see some scientist say it. I don't have to hear it from a researcher. I already know it. Not because I'm special, because this stuff is the truth. But the research has shown that followers are 40% more productive on average than workers. What I'm saying there, people who follow a leader because they want to are 40% more productive on average than workers who follow a boss because they have to. I think it's more than that. I'll give you one perfect example. We had a plant manager leave the plant that I was working at when I was still working in the corporate world. I was the lean coordinator. The plant manager left, and I didn't know the numbers I'm going to tell you till later, but when that plant manager left, we were basically somewhere around minus 3% gross profit margin. I don't know if it was when he left, before he left, or right after he left, but somewhere during there, maybe that's probably why he left. We never really knew why he left. But later I learned out about our numbers, and that makes a lot of sense. He might have got left. I don't know. All I know is they brought in a new plant manager. His name's Jim Naralt. I write about him in my book, Defining Influence, the best leader that I ever reported to in my 20-year career. I still think the world of Jim. I don't see him and talk to him very often, but occasionally we do reach out and speak to each other. But when he come in, this is one of those examples. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. Jim come on board as a plant manager, transformed the entire organization. He didn't fire everybody and hire a bunch of new people. He started leading the people who were there, who had only been managed. And there were still a lot of managers there. So he was trying to lead managers who wanted to manage. They didn't want to lead. The biggest fault that I fought Jim with is he didn't have content like I'm talking to you about and come in and formally teach us or bring someone in to teach us, like someone like me. He didn't teach it. He modeled it. And all of us who were high impact people who valued his style of leadership, I always say leadership's more caught than taught. We caught a lot from Jim. I learned so much from watching him, seeing his example. But we could have accelerated it if we'd had this kind of content. Obviously, my content didn't exist then because I hadn't written it. But this is exactly why I wrote all the stuff that I wrote, especially these 5 Blue Collar Leadership Series books. They're the exact books we needed, that we would have accelerated our journey like crazy. But even though we didn't have this, we had a high impact leader like I'm talking to you about now. And Jim, what was cool about it is in just 3 short years, we went from minus 3% gross profit margin to plus 35% gross profit margin. First thing he did when I saw him, he walked in, sat on the corner of my desk and said, "Hi, I'm Jim Naralt. What's your name?" I told him my name. He said, "Who do you report to?" He knew I was, or he said, "What do I do?" I said, "I'm the lean coordinator." He said, "Who do you report to?" I said, "You." He said, "That's outstanding, because if you didn't, you were about to." I knew I liked Jim from that moment right there. My first conversation with him, because he understood what I already knew. The lean guy needs to report to the top dog. He don't need to get hung up in the politics of somebody else trying to manipulate and move him around, him or her. I'm a him, so I'm saying him. But whoever the lean coordinator, lean manager, needs to report directly to the top leader so they get out of that stuff. And see, if it's a high impact leader like Jim was, Jim says, "I'm responsible for lean. Not Mack, I am." So don't blame Mack that we're going down the lean manufacturing path. Blame me. Mack's a resource for you. Mack's there to help you. If he can't help you, you come see me and I'll make sure I get Mack the development he needs so that he can help you. But don't blame him. I'm in charge. See, the previous plant manager would throw me under the bus all the time with the other managers and stuff. He'd say, "Mack, Mack said you ain't doing this. Mack says you need to do this." Totally different frame. And if that other guy would have stayed there, I would have quit probably within a month or two before, if he would have stayed, I probably would have quit a month or two beyond the time that he actually left, because I had had enough getting thrown under the bus. That's what low impact leaders do. They throw you under the bus. It don't matter what level they're at. Low impact leaders are terrible to report to. All right. I'll leave you on a quote from Colonel Tom Connolly, United States Marine Corps retired. Hoorah for the Marines out there. Simplify. This is the quote from Tom. He says, "Whether in the military or a civilian organization, the culture of the first organization a young person joins has tremendous impact. And his or her first immediate supervisor significantly shapes that person's understanding of the organization and the role of supervisors and managers." That's why it's so important to have high impact leaders in every formal authority role. When young people come into your organization, regardless of what level they're at, most of them are going to be frontline, entry-level folks, the youngest. A lot of them come in there, that may be the first job they've ever had. They start working for Barney Fife, they're going to get one idea of what a leader is. They start working for Andy Griffith, they're going to get another idea of what a leader is. But like Tom says, it's going to shape them. And until I met Jim Naralt, most of my leaders, they were hardcore Barney Fife. They were insecure. They were managers of people. They had all different kind of titles and positions and income and all that stuff that formal authority leaders have, but they had no idea how to lead like I teach you to lead today. It's one reason I'm so passionate about it. I know what the real world's like out there, and so do you. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership Series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.